He pretended to be a good friend. Until a secret camera showed his true face to the world. The grand ballroom shimmered under the opulent glow of crystal chandeliers, their myriad droplets scattering light like frozen diamonds. An intoxicating blend of expensive perfumes, the rich scent of meticulously crafted canapés, and the taut, sweet undertone of impending scandal hung heavy in the air. Felix Sterling, impeccably handsome and radiating an almost insolent confidence, smiled broadly at the glittering throng gathered for the Thorn Philanthropy Foundation's annual gala. Beside him, Serafina Vance, his fiancée, her eyes sparkling with the same icy brilliance as the diamonds adorning her neck, seemed poised to burst with pride. This magnificent assembly, in their minds, marked the official commencement of their ascent. Felix had long dreamt of being the sole voice in the Foundation's governance, envisioning the day his granduncle Octavius Thorn would finally recede into the shadows of retirement. He and Serafina had meticulously planned for this moment for what felt like an eternity, buoyed by an unshakable conviction that the old man's vast wealth would, at long last, fall squarely into their grasping hands. A profound sense of irony settled deep within Octavius Thorn as he observed them from the antechamber, the subtle hum of the gathered elite a muted backdrop to his contemplation. He had built this empire, this beacon of hope, only to see it coveted by those who understood neither its purpose nor the weight of its legacy. A weariness, far older than his 72 years, often pressed upon him, a quiet sorrow for the purity that had been corrupted. Suddenly, the grand doors of the ballroom swung inward with a resonant creak, and every conversation within instantly ceased. A collective intake of breath swept through the room as all eyes, drawn by an unspoken magnetic force, swiveled towards the man who now stood framed in the ornate doorway. Octavius Thorn, the legendary classical music maestro, stood there in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, his presence, once capable of filling concert halls with commanding authority, now seemed to shrink the vast space around him. An enigmatic expression, unreadable to any but himself, played upon his features. Beside him, his lawyer, Mr. Henderson, walked with a purposeful stride, a large, worn briefcase clutched firmly in his hand. This utterly unexpected turn of events froze the flawless smile on Felix's face. Serafina's lips parted slightly, and one word, a silent, desperate query, echoed within her mind, why? A subtle tremor of anticipation, a controlled excitement, coursed through Octavius as he began his slow, deliberate progress through the silent ballroom. His gaze, piercing and unwavering, locked directly onto Felix and Serafina. In his eyes, a glint of irony, for now understood only by him, flickered. The assembled elite held their collective breath, transfixed by this peculiar silence, a stark contrast to the usual convivial din. Octavius continued his measured walk towards the platform, the soft murmur of his polished shoes on the marble floor the only sound. He reached the podium, his hand closing around the microphone, his grip firm. His voice, when he spoke, resonated through the ballroom with the same sharp, authoritative command he once used to conduct a symphony orchestra, reaching every corner of the vast space. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen," Octavius's voice boomed, its resonance filling the room with an almost physical weight. "He stands before you tonight to announce that this evening, this very night, will indeed mark a turning point for all of us." Felix and Serafina exchanged a quick, eager glance. Could this truly be it? Was this the moment their uncle would formally declare his retirement, finally ceding control of the foundation to them? A glint of avaricious expectation flickered across their faces, a barely contained eagerness for the wealth and power they believed awaited them. However, Octavius continued, the mysterious tone in his voice deepening, a subtle shift that made the air crackle with unspoken tension. "This turning point, perhaps, will be rather different from what some of us might have imagined." His eyes settled once more on Felix and Serafina, this time with a gaze harder, more piercing, a gaze that seemed to strip away their carefully constructed facades. "Because," he added, a faint, bitter smile playing on his lips, "the game is over. The masks are falling." The expectation on Felix's face contorted into an expression of utter bewilderment. Serafina's hand, now a white-knuckled claw, clamped onto Felix's arm, her nails digging into the expensive fabric of his suit. They simply did not understand. What could he possibly mean? The mocking glint that now shone in Octavius's eyes sent a shiver of icy dread through their very core. In the background of the ballroom, unnoticed by the captivated audience, a large screen slowly began to descend, its surface black and reflective, mirroring the tense faces below. On it, a single camera lens glowed in the dimness, a tiny red light, poised and ready to record everything. Octavius Thorne had dedicated the vast majority of his 72 years to the profound art of conducting the world's greatest orchestras, touching millions of souls with the universal language of music. He was not merely a conductor, he was revered as a visionary, a dedicated philanthropist, and an enduring cultural icon. His colossal fortune, exceeding billions of dollars, was the direct culmination of a brilliant career spanning decades, coupled with exceptionally shrewd investments. Yet, even at the zenith of his career, a gnawing sense of disillusionment had begun to creep in, a growing awareness of a darker side of human nature. Behind the thunderous applause, the dazzling lights of extravagant parties, and the constant chorus of fawning compliments, Octavius had felt an increasing void. The people who surrounded him, particularly his supposed loved ones and closest circle, had consistently displayed a rapacious appetite for his wealth, rather than genuine affection or sincere appreciation. The feeling had sharpened acutely when he had first announced his semi-retirement. Those who once affectionately called him "dear uncle," or "valued friend," now seemed to anticipate his swift departure, as if eager for his life to conclude so they might finally lay claim to his legacy. His grandnephew, Felix Sterling, was a particularly glaring example. Felix, through his mother's lineage, saw himself as the natural heir to the Thorne fortune and viewed Octavius's eventual stepping down from the Thorne Philanthropy Foundation as an opportune moment for a veritable revolution, a chance to bend the foundation's noble mission to serve his own brazen personal interests. Accompanying him in this relentless pursuit was his fiancée, Serafina Vance, a darling of the high society world. Serafina, equally driven by a thirst for luxury and ostentation, actively fanned the flames of Felix's avarice, showing no compunction about siphoning the foundation's resources for lavish galas and her own extravagant personal expenditures. In their eyes, Octavius was merely a human ATM, or, worse, an inconvenient obstacle to be swiftly removed. Octavius had always been a man of immense generosity. He had established the foundation with a pure heart, intending it to combat poverty, champion the arts, and bolster educational initiatives. Yet, in recent times, the Foundation's internal reports had become a source of profound disquiet. The aid, he discovered, was reaching fewer and fewer truly needy individuals, instead being funneled into projects Felix and Serafina deemed prestigious, projects that primarily served to inflate their own social standing. Funds from the Foundation's coffers seemed to evaporate under the guise of exorbitant galas held in five-star hotels, lavish international travel, and dubious consultancy fees. Octavius felt an urgent need to halt this insidious erosion of his life's work, but he also desired to unmask the true characters of those involved. He yearned to see the genuine faces behind their carefully constructed masks, to expose the decay that lay beneath their gilded veneer. It was precisely in this crucible of disappointment and simmering anger that a brilliant, albeit perilous, idea had sparked within his mind, a disguise. As the wealthy and powerful Octavius Thorne, he knew he would continue to be met with the same saccharine smiles and feigned admiration from everyone around him. However, if he were to appear as a destitute, anonymous old man, then, he reasoned, the true faces would invariably emerge. Who truly possessed a kind heart? Who worshipped only money? This test, he knew, would be the ultimate revelation. His plan had been meticulously crafted over several weeks, a covert operation shrouded in secrecy. First, he had quietly arranged a visit with his trusted friend, a master makeup artist who had worked with him for many years in the theater, confiding in no one else. He had asked him to create the character of Old Reggie, a man with trembling legs, a stooped back, a pallid complexion, unkempt hair, and dressed in threadbare, tattered clothes, a man visibly burdened by the crushing weight of a hard life. Reggie was to appear as if he had spent years as a stage manager in a theater, only to have fallen into destitution in recent times due to chronic health issues and a relentless string of misfortunes. Octavius had even undergone a physical transformation to fully embody this persona. He acquired a specially weighted cane, practiced thinning his voice, and deliberately slowed his gait. The clothes he would wear would be stained and worn, as if scavenged directly from the street. Most critically, he had arranged for hidden cameras. Working in absolute secrecy with his lawyer, Mr. Henderson, Octavius had arranged for the installation of high-resolution cameras and audio recording devices so minuscule they were virtually imperceptible, strategically placed throughout the Foundation's headquarters. These cameras were designed to document his visit to the Foundation in his "Old Reggie" guise, meticulously capturing every interaction, every word spoken, every subtle facial expression. This, he knew, would be his ultimate, irrefutable evidence. He had also drafted a revised will, a testamentary change designed to transfer a significant portion of his wealth into a trust fund, ensuring that these funds would reach only genuine beneficiaries. This new will would be activated only under specific, predetermined conditions, the moment the true nature of the people around him was irrevocably revealed. Octavius was acutely aware of the inherent risks embedded within this audacious plan. There was the undeniable possibility of exposure, of humiliation, of a complete and utter failure. Yet, the thought of his fortune falling into the wrong hands, the very idea of his life's purpose being betrayed, made those risks seem inconsequential. He firmly believed that true character revealed itself most clearly in the darkness, in times of profound adversity. And now, by deliberately extinguishing his own light, by becoming invisible, he was determined to see who the people around him truly were. The outcome of this test, he knew with a heavy heart, would sever some relationships irrevocably, while perhaps, just perhaps, allowing others to be reborn in a crucible of truth. A Tuesday morning, the city cloaked in a somber, persistent rain, provided the perfect atmospheric backdrop for Octavius to fully embrace his "Old Reggie" persona. On that day, Octavius was a frail, elderly man, his poverty evident in the threadbare, worn jacket and oversized trousers that hung loosely on his emaciated frame. His hair was a tangled mess, his face a roadmap of wrinkles etched deep with exhaustion and the harsh realities of a difficult life. Leaning heavily on his cane, he shuffled with palpable difficulty through the gleaming glass doors of the Thorn Philanthropy Foundation. The polished marble floors of the lobby and the stark, modern art installations created a jarring contrast with Old Reggie's disheveled appearance. The air inside felt colder, more sterile, than the rain-swept world outside. Hidden cameras, carefully concealed within Octavius's coat pocket and the tip of his cane, had already begun their silent, unblinking surveillance. The young woman at the reception desk, barely concealing a flicker of distaste, surveyed Reggie from head to toe, her expression betraying a subtle curl of her lip. Reggie, his voice a frail, trembling whisper, managed to utter, "I'm seeking assistance. I was hoping to inquire about the Foundation's aid programs." The woman wrinkled her nose, as if catching a faint, unpleasant odor, and tersely directed him to fill out a form. The form, with its minuscule print and labyrinthine questions, became an agonizing torment for Reggie's trembling hand as he tried to grasp the pen. A short while later, Felix Sterling strode through the lobby, his perfectly tailored suit an embodiment of the Foundation's luxurious environment. He exuded an air of effortless superiority. Reggie, seeing him, managed a faint cough, attempting to draw his attention. Felix's gaze paused briefly on Reggie, but then recoiled almost instantly, a flicker of discomfort and condescension crossing his features. It was as if Reggie were a stain, marring the meticulously curated aesthetic of the grand hall. "Yes," Felix uttered, a tone of barely concealed impatience lacing his voice. "How may he be of assistance, sir?" Felix, in his arrogance, instantly perceived the old man's presence as an unsightly blemish, a potential blight on the Foundation's pristine image. The Thorn Foundation, he assures the old man, supports only projects of significant value, projects that advance culture and art. It does not concern itself with matters of personal charity, not truly. As he spoke these words, a thin mask of feigned politeness was plastered across his face, but his eyes were fixated on Reggie's worn-out, mud-stained shoes. Reggie, his voice still trembling, replied, He is Reggie. He worked for many years as a stage manager in the theater. He even knew Mr. Thorne once, a long, long time ago. But now he's in a very difficult situation. His health is failing, he can't pay his rent. He thought, perhaps the foundation had some kind of support program. Felix shrugged dismissively. He understands, it must be a difficult situation, he said, but not a single tremor of empathy resonated in his tone. However, he must reiterate that their foundation does not provide direct assistance for personal needs. They support large-scale projects, educational and artistic endowments. Perhaps he should approach a shelter or a government social welfare organization. Those entities are better suited for such cases. Felix's words were sharp, clearly intended to swiftly dismiss Reggie. He apologizes, he cannot be of assistance. Good day. As Felix turned to walk away, Serafina Vance entered the lobby. Her eyes, sharp and judgmental, briefly scanned Reggie before a clear expression of disdain settled on her face. My darling, what is this? Serafina whispered, drawing closer to Felix, her voice a low, venomous hiss. This is a philanthropic institution, not a homeless shelter. These kinds of people tarnish the foundation's image. He really should call security and have him removed. There was no trace of softness or refinement in her voice, only a cutting edge of impatience. For her, Reggie was simply an inconvenient blemish. As Reggie overheard these harsh words, a bitter ache settled deep within him. Felix and Serafina, standing at the very gates of the foundation he had painstakingly built, regarded him as a stranger, an outcast, even a source of shame. In their eyes, he was merely a burden, a parasite. This entire agonizing encounter was flawlessly captured by the hidden cameras, a silent, damning testament to their true character. Several minutes later, Reggie still stood before the reception desk, bewildered, unsure of what to do, his gaze sweeping helplessly around the opulent lobby. The receptionist, having apparently dismissed him from her consciousness, pointedly ignored his presence. Just then, a middle-aged woman named Elara Finch, modest in appearance, emerged from the corner of a nearby corridor. Elara had served as an administrative assistant at the Thorne Foundation for many years. Her clothes were simple but immaculately clean, her hair pulled back tightly, and her face bore the gentle lines of fatigue, yet her eyes held a warmth and genuine compassion that shone brightly. She had overheard Felix and Serafina's brusque dismissal of Reggie from a distance. Elara approached Reggie, her steps quiet and respectful. Genuine concern was etched onto her features. Excuse him, sir, she said gently, her voice a soft melody. Is there any problem? He appears to be experiencing some difficulty. Her tone was remarkably tender, like a mother's comforting whisper. Reggie looked at Elara with a profound sense of surprise. It had been an immeasurable time since he had heard such a genuinely heartfelt tone. Yes, he is having trouble filling out this form. And he thinks they told him they couldn't help him. Elara smiled, a radiant light illuminating her face. He is Elara Finch. He is an administrative assistant at the foundation. He would be happy to assist him. Please, have a seat, there is no need to rush. She gently guided Reggie to an uncomfortable chair in the corner of the lobby. Then, she took her own lunch bag from her hand. From it, she produced a sandwich and an apple. He knows it's not much, she said, a shy blush on her cheeks. But he hasn't had lunch yet, has he? Perhaps this will bring him some comfort. Elara was offering her own modest lunch to a stranger, an old man in evident distress. A lump formed in Reggie's throat. This simple gesture, born of pure kindness, spoke volumes, far more eloquently than all of Felix and Serafina's contemptuous words combined. Reggie accepted the sandwich with profound gratitude, his heart swelling with an emotion he hadn't felt in what seemed like ages. Elara patiently reviewed the form, simplifying the complex questions, even filling in some sections on Reggie's behalf. For over an hour, Elara meticulously tried to comprehend Reggie's predicament. She made phone calls, diligently took notes, attempting to ascertain if there were any other programs that might assist him, treating Reggie's problem as if it were her own personal crusade. "Does he know Mr. Thorne?" Elara inquired, glancing at the former employer section of the form. "He has always admired him. His vision in founding this institution. He is such a generous and good man. Thanks to him, thousands of lives have been transformed." The sincere respect and profound admiration in Elara's voice warmed Octavius's heart in a way he hadn't felt in years. Here, at the very foundation he had painstakingly built, a place from which he was almost ejected as a stranger, this humble woman was the sole individual who genuinely valued his legacy. Elara, in Octavius's eyes, was nothing short of an angel. She was the living embodiment of true character. Through Elara's compassionate assistance, Reggie managed to secure an appointment, though it was weeks away and offered no guaranteed aid. Reggie thanked Elara profusely, his eyes welling up with tears of gratitude. Elara simply smiled and said, "It is of no importance. Everyone experiences difficult times. He hopes everything turns out well." As Reggie departed from the foundation, he left behind the cold, disdainful faces of Felix and Serafina, and the luminous, warm smile of Elara. This poignant encounter, now meticulously recorded by the hidden cameras, was the critical scene that would irrevocably shape Octavius's ultimate decision. The Thorne Philanthropy Foundation's annual gala dinner was a spectacle of unparalleled grandeur, held within the magnificent ballroom of one of the city's most prestigious hotels. The vast space was adorned with shimmering gold leaf, illuminated by cascades of light from countless crystal chandeliers, and permeated by the intoxicating fragrance of thousands of fresh, exotic flowers. The crème de la crème of the city's high society, leading business magnates, celebrated artists, and influential socialites, had gathered, resplendent in their most exquisite attire, to commemorate the foundation's success. Felix Sterling and Serafina Vance, basking in the glow of the evening, seemed to embody the very stars of the night. Felix, confident in the imminent expansion of his power within the Foundation's board of directors, perhaps even ascending to the presidential seat, wore a self-satisfied smile. Serafina, in her newly commissioned designer gown, was more ostentatious than ever, the photographer's flashes seemingly captivated by her every move. Later in the evening, Felix took the microphone, his voice resonating through the opulent ballroom. "Distinguished guests, tonight," he proclaims, "they gather to celebrate the enduring vision of their esteemed founder, their beloved uncle, Mr. Octavius Thorne." A ripple of polite applause filled the grand hall. Felix continued, his voice swelling with a carefully rehearsed gravitas, "With his imminent retirement, the Foundation, he believes, is poised to enter a dynamic new era. In this new chapter, Mr. Vance and he, with unwavering dedication, will undoubtedly propel the Foundation's noble mission to even greater heights." It was at this precise moment that the grand doors of the ballroom swung open with a resounding, attention-grabbing creak, drawing every single gaze in the room towards the entrance. Octavius Thorne stood framed in the doorway, his presence immediately commanding. He wore a perfectly tailored tailcoat, as if he had just stepped directly from an orchestra conductor's podium. His posture was ramrod straight, like a statue, and despite the natural concessions of his advanced age, the innate authority that had once dominated concert stages still emanated from his very being. Beside him, with his perpetually serious demeanor, stood his lawyer, Mr. Henderson, a worn leather briefcase clutched firmly in his hand. Felix's speech, mid-sentence, abruptly ceased. He almost dropped the microphone, his hand trembling. Serafina's meticulously made-up smile, frozen in place just moments before, instantly dissolved into an expression of profound shock. Neither of them had anticipated Octavius's presence, least of all his dramatic, almost theatrical entrance. "Uncle Octavius! What a delightful surprise!" Felix stammered, his voice betraying a distinct tremor. Why did he not inform them of his arrival? They would be profoundly honored to host him. Octavius advanced slowly into the ballroom, his gaze fixing on the stunned, pale faces of Felix and Seraphina. He could feel their forced warmth, their thinly veiled tension, a palpable discomfort radiating from them. He gently took the microphone from Felix's trembling hand. "He has always been fond of surprises, Felix," Octavius stated, a subtle, mocking undertone in his voice. "Especially those that no one expects." Octavius gestured towards the large screen that was now slowly descending behind him. "Tonight," he announced, "they would celebrate the true face of the Thorn Foundation." He paused, allowing his words to hang in the air, weighted with unspoken meaning. "And as part of this celebration, he wishes to present to them a few short films. These, he assures them, are brief, yet profoundly instructive, excerpts that vividly illustrate just how successfully their foundation has fulfilled its mission." The screen flickered, then burst to life, displaying a scene that sent a ripple of bewildered murmurs through the astonished audience. The camera's lens focused sharply on the foundation's pristine lobby. On screen, a frail, stooped figure, dressed in shabby, worn-out clothes, shuffled with trembling steps, old Reggie. Whispers began to rise from the assembled crowd. Felix and Seraphina, their eyes wide with a dawning horror, stared transfixed at the screen. They remembered this old man. But what could he possibly have to do with any of this? The images continued to unfold, playing out like a carefully orchestrated drama. On screen, Felix's face, contorted with thinly veiled contempt, was clearly visible as he coldly declared to Reggie, "They do not concern themselves with matters of personal charity." Seraphina's sharp, cutting voice, declaring, "These kinds of people tarnish the Foundation's image," echoed brutally through the stunned ballroom. Felix's and Seraphina's faces turned ashen, drained of all color. Low murmurs of outrage began to ripple from the deeper recesses of the hall. Then, Elara Finch appeared on the screen, her gentle smile, her profound act of kindness as she offered Reggie her own modest lunch, her patient assistance as she helped him painstakingly fill out the complex forms. Elara's sincere and compassionate voice, uttering the simple yet powerful words, "Everyone experiences difficult times," resonated through the ballroom, filling the space with a warmth that had been conspicuously absent moments before. These scenes created a stark and painful contrast with the callous indifference displayed by Felix and Seraphina. The audience watched, utterly captivated, their emotions oscillating between admiration for Elara and profound disgust for the Foundation's supposed heirs. Octavius brought the microphone closer to his lips. His voice, like a seasoned conductor, masterfully manipulated the emotions of the room. "As they have just witnessed," he explains, "he created a character named Old Reggie." He paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle. He utilized this persona to ascertain whether the Foundation, to which he had dedicated years of his life, pouring his heart and soul into its very fabric, was truly upholding its core values. And most significantly, he did this to observe if those closest to him, those he had believed to be most trustworthy, genuinely comprehended the true humanity that lay beneath the vast layers of his wealth. His eyes, cold and unwavering, bore into Felix and Seraphina. Felix's face was now a crimson mask of shame and fury, while Seraphina, unable to compose herself, turned her head away, her body racked with silent sobs. Their humiliation was a palpable force, threatening to consume them entirely. Octavius continued, his voice rising, gaining a sharp, steel-like edge. "The outcome of this test," he declared, "has unveiled certain undeniable truths. It has been revealed that some among them see nothing but money, having entirely forgotten the essence of humanity. And it has been revealed that some, even in the direst of circumstances, have preserved their humanity, possessing a truly good heart." Felix Sterling, Octavius announced, his voice slicing through the air like a sharp blade, he must confess, he feels a profound shame for him. A shame not merely for his role as his grandnephew, nor for his position at the head of his foundation, but, above all else, a shame for his failure to embody the most fundamental aspect of being a human being. There are countless more images, countless more pieces of irrefutable evidence, meticulously documenting how he and his fiancée squandered the Foundation's resources, how they callously turned their backs on those in genuine need. These initial images, he assures them, were merely the prelude, the very beginning of the full revelation. Felix, finally regaining some semblance of composure, stumbled forward. "Uncle. This is a grave misunderstanding. This must be some kind of elaborate joke. Please," he begs him, Octavius raised a hand, and Felix's desperate voice was instantly silenced, cut off mid-plea. "This is no joke, Felix. This is not a courtroom, but an unequivocal exposure. And tonight, the masks, he declares, are truly falling. His mask, Seraphina's mask. Now, he reminds them, everyone knows who they truly are." A profound silence descended upon the ballroom, heavy and suffocating. Every eye in the room was fixed on the dramatic unfolding of this scene, each person trying to absorb every agonizing detail. The night had, irrevocably, veered into a direction far removed from what had been meticulously planned. The suffocating silence in the ballroom, shattered by Octavius's final, damning words, seemed to echo the internal turmoil that now consumed Felix and Seraphina. His pronouncements had created an earthquake, utterly demolishing the proud world they had so meticulously constructed. Felix's face, a grotesque mask of shame and incandescent rage, contorted with a sickening blend of emotions. Seraphina, completely losing control, collapsed into a fit of raw, uncontrolled sobs, her gasps echoing shrilly through the silent hall. Octavius's lawyer, Mr. Henderson, with a practiced solemnity, opened his briefcase and produced several official-looking documents. Octavius, his voice calm yet imbued with an unwavering authority that brooked no argument, addressed the two disgraced figures. "Felix Sterling and Seraphina Vance," he stated, his words like hammer blows, "effective today, all ties that bind them to the Thorn Philanthropy Foundation are irrevocably severed. Felix, he declares, not only is he stripped of his position as Foundation Director, but he is also immediately removed from all roles on the Board of Trustees. Seraphina, he adds, all her positions on the Foundation's Events Committee are hereby revoked." Felix, his voice choked with desperation and a rising tide of panic, screamed, "He cannot do this, uncle. This is illegal. He is his heir." Octavius offered a mocking, almost pitying smile. The legality of the matter, he assured him, would be thoroughly explained by his esteemed lawyer, Mr. Henderson. Henderson, stepping forward with an air of grim satisfaction, began, "Mr. Sterling, the meticulously recorded images and audio recordings, captured by the discreetly placed cameras, provide irrefutable evidence supporting the grave allegations of gross misuse of Foundation funds, embezzlement, and the blatant pursuit of personal gain. This conduct, he must inform him, not only flagrantly violates the Foundation's charter but also constitutes serious legal offenses punishable by law. Furthermore," he continued, his voice precise and unyielding, "there exists a new will, duly signed by Mr. Thorne only a few weeks prior. According to the stipulations of this revised testament, the entirety of the Foundation's assets, alongside a substantial portion of Mr. Thorne's personal fortune, will be transferred into a newly established trust fund. The administrator of this fund, he specifies, will be appointed according to stringently defined criteria. Regrettably," he concludes, his voice devoid of sympathy, "neither of them possesses any share or claim within this new will." Felix's knees buckled beneath him, his body swaying precariously, as if the very ground had given way. Seraphina, utterly consumed by her despair, had completely lost control, her raw, guttural sobs echoing through the hushed ballroom, a chilling testament to her ruined dreams. All their aspirations, every meticulously crafted plan for their future, had, in a matter of seconds, disintegrated into dust. In the blink of an eye, they had transformed from the darlings of one of the city's most powerful families into a public spectacle of utter humiliation. In the vast ballroom, there were far more individuals secretly rejoicing in their downfall than those who felt a genuine pang of pity. Many had long been repulsed by Felix and Seraphina's arrogant and insolent demeanor. Octavius took a deep breath, allowing his gaze to sweep slowly across the stunned faces in the ballroom. His eyes finally settled on Elara Finch, who stood amidst the crowd, her eyes wide with a mixture of shock and profound disbelief. Elara looked as if she were caught in a dream, unable to fully grasp the reality of the unfolding drama. "And now," Octavius announced, his voice softening perceptibly, a warmth spreading through his tone, "he would like to introduce the true hero of this evening. Elara Finch." Elara flinched visibly when her name was called, a flush of crimson rising to her cheeks as every eye in the room swiveled towards her. Octavius walked towards Elara, a warm, genuine smile gracing his lips. "Miss Finch," he began, his voice filled with sincere admiration. His compassionate conduct that day, her genuine humanity, and her unconditional benevolence became the most luminous highlight of this entire narrative. She, he declared with conviction, embodied the founding philosophy of the Thorn Foundation, true aid and profound compassion, in its purest, most untainted form. Elara, her voice barely a whisper, murmured, he merely did what he felt was right, sir." Octavius shook his head gently. "No, Elara. She did far, far more than that. She opened her heart to a complete stranger, even when she herself was in a precarious situation. And that, he assured her, is the most invaluable treasure in the world." Octavius took an envelope from Mr. Henderson and extended it towards Elara. "This," he informed her, "is for her. In his new will, he has appointed her as the new administrator of the Thorn Philanthropy Foundation. Furthermore," he added, "within this envelope, there is a substantial sum, enough to allow her and her family to embark on a truly new beginning." Elara's eyes widened in utter shock as she carefully opened the envelope. Inside, she found a check, made out in her name, indicating millions of dollars. And a small, handwritten note, "May her new home bring her much joy." Tears streamed down Elara's face, not from sorrow, but from a profound, overwhelming sense of pure gratitude. A home she had yearned for throughout her life, the opportunity to provide a far better future for her children. This was beyond her wildest, most improbable dreams. She had never, in her entire life, seen such an immense sum of money in one place. Felix and Seraphina, forced to witness Elara's astonishing reward, watched with faces contorted by a painful blend of bitter envy and seething rage. They had lost everything, while this humble woman had transcended even her most extravagant fantasies. This moment, Octavius reflected, was justice in its sharpest, most merciless, and ultimately, most satisfying form. 1 year had passed since that unforgettable night. The Thorn Philanthropy Foundation, under the visionary leadership of Elara Finch, had undergone a profound rebirth. Elara had meticulously transformed the foundation into a transparent and remarkably effective aid organization, rigorously focused on serving genuine needs, aligning perfectly with Octavius's original, benevolent vision. Now, the substantial funds were no longer squandered on lavish galas, but diligently directed towards the construction of schools, the treatment of critical illnesses, and the direct sustenance of impoverished families. Under Elara's compassionate stewardship, the foundation touched more lives with each passing day, becoming a tangible beacon of real hope. Elara had adapted to her demanding new role with astonishing speed and grace. She now resided in a luxurious home, and her children received their education in the finest schools, yet she herself had retained her inherently humble and benevolent spirit, never forgetting her own challenging past. She remained consistently kind and understanding towards her employees, a reflection of the empathy forged in her previous struggles. Octavius Thorn observed Elara's burgeoning success with immense pride. He was finally enjoying the tranquil solace of his retirement, dedicating his time to music with old friends and serving as a trusted consultant for the Foundation's newly implemented projects. In his heart, he carried the profound peace of having, at long last, made the unequivocally right decision. Knowing that his vast fortune had finally found its way into truly deserving hands gave him an unparalleled sense of fulfillment. He had indeed witnessed the darkest crevices of human nature, yet simultaneously, he had discovered hearts like Ilara's, radiant with an inner light that transcended all avarice. The lives of Felix Sterling and Serafina Vance, however, had been irrevocably shattered by Octavius's decisive intervention. Felix was not merely dismissed from the Foundation, he also suffered an immense, irreparable loss of public reputation due to the grave allegations against him. He was ostracized from society, his former friends slowly but decisively distancing themselves. He struggled profoundly to find employment, forced to take on menial jobs he would once have contemptuously disdained. Serafina's engagement had been broken, and she, too, was cast out by her family, her once gilded social standing collapsing entirely. She was compelled to bid farewell to her luxurious lifestyle, the expensive designer gowns she once flaunted replaced by cheap, unremarkable clothing. They had paid, and were still paying, a heavy price for their arrogance and insatiable greed. Their own relationship, once built on shared ambition, was now poisoned by mutual accusations and crushing disappointment. They blamed each other, consumed by a bitter longing for the lost glory of their past. This story, Octavius often reflected, was a profound journey into the very depths of human character. His audacious decision to don the guise of Old Reggie was not merely a test to discover the true inheritors of his wealth, it was, more profoundly, a mirror held up to the human soul, revealing both its darkest and its most luminous facets. This narrative serves as a poignant reminder that true character, the essence of who one truly is, reveals itself most clearly in the darkness, when confronted by adversity. For in the light, everyone shines. What truly matters is the ability to be a beacon for others even when enveloped by shadows. Kindness, much like a seed carefully planted, blossoms at the most unexpected moments and always, invariably, finds its just reward. For this is the undeniable law of the universe: what one sows, one inevitably reaps. And sometimes, the grandest rewards are bestowed upon the most humble of hearts. This story, a journey into the depths of the human spirit, revealing both brutal truths and unexpected kindness, truly resonated, did it not? Did Octavius Thorne's daring plan and the unmasking of the hidden faces by Old Reggie surprise you as much as they did him? If you were in Octavius's shoes, would you have taken such a risk to see the true nature of your loved ones? And like Ilara, would you have offered your own meal to someone in distress? Share your thoughts and reflections in the comments below. He truly reads every single one. If you enjoy stories like this, filled with life lessons and profound emotional impact, you've come to the right place. On this channel, you can discover hundreds of similar narratives that explore the complex facets of human nature, each offering its own unique and powerful lesson. To ensure you never miss out on his new stories, be sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. That way, you'll be among the very first to know when his next thought-provoking tale is released. Remember, the finest characters are often revealed in the most challenging times. He looks forward to seeing you in the next video.